Rain pressed softly against the cafe windows, turning the afternoon in Seattle into a gray blur of umbrellas and headlights. Inside, warm light filled the room, and the smell of fresh coffee wrapped around everyone who entered. Emma Parker stepped. In brushing water from her jacket, she had planned to grab a drink and leave, but something in the quiet mood made her slow down. The cafe felt like a pause in time, a place where stories waited to begin. As she moved toward the counter, her eyes drifted to a corner table where two men sat, deep in conversation yet calm, like they had known each other for years. One was tall with silver hair and kind but tired eyes, the other slightly shorter with soft features and a peaceful presence. There was something about them that felt steady, safe, and real. And before Emma could stop herself, her attention stayed there longer than she meant it to. Daniel Brooks leaned back in his chair, stirring his coffee while listening to Michael Reed talk about one of his students who had finally learned to love reading. Daniel smiled, but his thoughts were far away. Since his divorce 2 years ago, life had become quiet. His apartment felt empty, his evenings long. Michael, across from him, carried his own silence. Losing his wife had changed the way he saw the world. He still smiled, still joked, but part of him stayed guarded. Their weekly cafe meetings were the one thing that felt normal. That was when Daniel noticed Emma standing by the counter, light, catching in her brown hair as she waited for her order. Something in his chest shifted. It wasn't desire. It was recognition, like seeing sunlight after weeks of rain. Michael followed Daniel's gaze and saw her too. She wasn't loud or trying to be noticed. She just existed, warm and thoughtful, reading a message on her phone while holding her cup with both hands. There was a softness in her face, mixed with strength. For a moment, neither man spoke. It felt strange how one stranger could change. The air in the room. Emma picked up her coffee and turned around, her eyes meeting theirs by accident. She quickly looked away, embarrassed, but her heart beat faster. She didn't know why. They were older, clearly from a different stage of life, but there was comfort in their presence. Emma chose a small table near the window but found herself distracted, staring into her drink instead of sipping it. The rain outside blurred the city, making everything feel private. Her thoughts wandered. She had moved to Seattle a year ago after a rough breakup that left her questioning what she wanted from love. Dating men her age felt shallow and rushed. Everyone wanted quick feelings and easy endings. She was tired of it, and now, without meaning to, she felt drawn to two strangers who seemed calm and real in a way she hadn't felt in years. Daniel felt the same pull. He hadn't noticed a woman like this since his marriage ended. Not because he hadn't seen beautiful people, but because he hadn't felt interest. Yet here it was, sudden and alive. Michael shifted in his seat, trying not to stare, but his heart felt warm in a way he thought was gone forever. He remembered what it was like to feel hopeful. The room felt smaller, quieter, like it was just the three of them. Minutes passed like seconds. Emma finally looked up again, catching Daniel's eye once more. This time, neither looked away. A silent question hung in the air. Her hands tightened around her cup. She stood slowly, surprising herself with her own courage, and walked toward their table. Each step felt heavy, but something inside pushed her forward. "Hi," she said softly, her voice shaking just a little. "Sorry to bother you. Is anyone sitting here?" Daniel blinked, shocked, then quickly shook his head. "No, please," he said, standing halfway out of his chair before sitting back down awkwardly. Michael smiled, warm and gentle. "You're welcome to join us." Emma sat, heart racing so loud she was sure they could hear it. For a moment, none of them spoke. Then Michael laughed lightly to break the tension. "Michael, this is Daniel." "Emma," she said, her nerves fading as their kindness filled the space. They began with simple talk. The weather. How long Emma had lived in Seattle. Daniel shared how he worked in design. Michael spoke about teaching. The conversation flowed easily, like they had known each other longer than minutes, Emma told them. about moving to the city to start fresh, about working in a small marketing company and learning how to be alone again. Daniel listened closely, nodding with understanding. Michael asked thoughtful questions, making her feel important. Laughter came naturally. The rain outside kept falling, but inside everything felt warm. Emma noticed how Daniel's eyes softened. When she spoke, how Michael smiled with his whole face. For the first time in months, she felt seen, not judged or rushed, just heard. Daniel felt young again, not in body but in spirit. He forgot about deadlines, empty rooms, and quiet nights. Michael felt a spark of life. He thought grief had taken forever. Emma felt something she hadn't felt in years, comfort. Mixed with excitement, time slipped by unnoticed. When Emma finally checked her phone, she gasped softly. "I didn't realize how late it is." Daniel smiled. Time moves fast when you're enjoying it. She stood slowly, not wanting to leave but knowing she had to. For a moment, silence returned. The air felt heavy with things unsaid. Emma took a breath, her heart beating fast again. "I really enjoyed talking with you both." "We did too," Michael said warmly. Before fear could stop her, Emma spoke. "Would you like to get dinner sometime, both of you?" "Maybe this week?" Daniel froze. Michael's eyes widened. Neither expected those words. Emma felt suddenly shy, wondering if she had crossed a line. Her cheeks burned. But she didn't. "Take it back. I think you're both wonderful," she said softly. For a second, the world felt still. Then Emma smiled nervously, waved, and walked toward the door before either man could answer. The bell above the cafe rang as she stepped into the rain. Daniel and Michael stared at each other in shock. Did that just happen? Outside, Emma's heart raced as rain soaked her hair, but she was smiling. None of them knew it yet. But that simple moment had just changed 3 lives forever. After that rainy afternoon at the cafe, Emma couldn't stop thinking about Daniel and Michael. Their faces, their voices, the way they made her feel both safe and alive, it lingered in her mind like a song she couldn't stop humming. She went through her week at work in a blur, distracted, checking her phone every so often to see if either of them had messaged. When she got home at night, she sat on her small apartment balcony, staring at the city lights, remembering their laughter, and how easily the conversation had flowed. It wasn't just attraction, it was connection, something deeper than she had felt in a long time. And then her phone vibrated. One message from Daniel, short and simple. "Coffee again. I can't stop thinking about our conversation." A few minutes later, another from Michael. "I'd love to meet you again. Maybe a walk in the park." Emma's heart raced. 2 invitations. 2 very different experiences, and yet she wanted both. She hesitated, knowing she couldn't ignore either. She replied with warmth, agreeing to meet them separately, curious to see what would unfold. The very next evening, she met Daniel at a small waterfront promenade. The rain had stopped, leaving the air fresh and cool. Daniel greeted her with a smile that made her feel instantly at ease. They walked along the edge of the pier, talking about life, careers, and dreams they hadn't shared with anyone else. Daniel told her about the quiet end of his marriage, the way love sometimes fades, not with anger, but with distance. Emma listened intently, touched by the honesty in his words. She shared her own past heartbreak, her struggle with loneliness, and the lessons she had learned about resilience. Daniel laughed lightly at some of her stories, surprised at how easily she made him feel young again, like he could hope and dream without fear. There was a spark between them, quiet but undeniable, sense of possibility that lingered in the air long after the conversation ended. As they parted that evening, Daniel held her hand briefly, and the simple touch left both of them smiling and thinking about each other long after the night ended. 2 days later, Emma met Michael at a small city park lined with cherry blossom trees. The air was crisp, and the light pink petals floated gently in the breeze. Michael greeted her with a calm warmth that immediately made her feel safe. They found a quiet bench and started talking about books, life, and memories. Michael shared stories about his late wife, not with sadness, but with gratitude for the years they had spent together. He spoke about the lessons she had taught him and the way her memory inspired him to find joy in small things. Emma felt herself drawn to the depth of his heart, the gentle way he observed the world and cherished every meaningful detail. Michael, she felt peace. There was no rush, no pressure, just a steady rhythm of conversation and understanding. They laughed softly, walked along tree-lined paths, and shared thoughtful silences that felt comfortable rather than awkward. When they said goodbye, Emma felt a calm warmth in her chest, the kind that comes from meeting someone who truly sees you. After those meetings, Emma spent the next few days in a whirl of emotions. With Daniel, she felt excitement, adventure, and a youthful spark she hadn't realized she missed. With Michael, she felt serenity, comfort, and a sense of being truly understood. Both experiences were enriching, yet confusing. She hadn't expected to feel strongly for two people at the same time, and the thought both thrilled and scared her. At work, she found herself distracted, replaying moments from each meeting, comparing the two men in her mind, trying to make sense of her emotions. She realized she was developing feelings, not just simple crushes, for both, and it terrified her to admit it. Each man had awakened something unique in her. Daniel challenged her, made her laugh, and reminded her of her own strength. Michael nurtured her, made her feel cherished, and gave her a quiet kind of happiness she hadn't known was possible. Daniel, meanwhile, replayed the moments from their meeting over and over. He hadn't felt such a connection in years. Each laugh, each shared thought, every small glance from Emma lingered in his mind. He told himself to slow down, to be patient, but his thoughts always returned to her. Michael had similar feelings. He thought about Emma's laughter, her curious questions, the way she listened to his stories with genuine interest. She had a way of making him feel alive again, like life still held surprises worth experiencing. Both men, despite being older and more experienced, were caught off guard by her effect on them. Emma tried to make sense of her heart. She wrote in her journal at night, tracing the emotions that both men inspired. She realized she was falling for both, but in different ways. Daniel brought excitement, adventure, and a rush of energy she hadn't felt since her youth. Michael brought peace, understanding, and a sense of home she hadn't realized she missed. It wasn't easy to balance these emotions, she questioned herself constantly. Was it fair? Could love be felt for more than one person at the same time? Were these feelings sustainable? Every night she went to sleep with Daniel's smile in her mind and woke with Michael's gentle words echoing in her thoughts. Eventually, Emma understood that she needed clarity. She couldn't ignore the depth of what she felt, but she also couldn't let things continue without honesty. She knew she had to face both men, to be truthful about her feelings, and to understand what she wanted. The thought of confrontation made her nervous, but she also felt a strange sense of calm. Life had given her two paths, and now she had to navigate them with care. On a particularly bright Saturday morning, Emma returned to the cafe where it all began. The memory of the first meeting, the rain, the warmth inside, and the simple courage it took to sit at their table came rushing back. She sat by the window, watching the city go by, preparing herself for the conversations to come. Later that day, she called Daniel to arrange a meeting, and soon after, Michael received a message as well. They both agreed, unaware that the other had been contacted. Emma felt the weight of the moments ahead, knowing hearts would be stirred, emotions tested, and choices needed as the day moved forward. Emma couldn't help but feel grateful for the unexpected turn of events. She had walked into a cafe seeking nothing but warmth and coffee. And instead, she had met two men who reminded her of the possibilities of life, love, and connection. She realized that relationships weren't always about immediate answers or simple choices. Sometimes they were about understanding yourself, your desires, and your ability to feel deeply. And in that understanding, Emma felt ready for what came next, knowing that the coming days would challenge her heart but also teach her more about love, life, and courage than she had ever known. By evening, the city was calm, the streets glistening. From earlier rain, Emma walked home slowly, replaying the week in her mind. She thought about Daniel's laugh, Michael's warmth, and her own growing feelings. She knew the next meeting would be pivotal. A choice loomed on the horizon, even if she didn't yet see it clearly. For the first time in a long while, her heart was full, not empty, full of possibility. And she realized that sometimes life's surprises didn't come in easy, predictable ways, but in moments that challenged you, inspired you, and ultimately made you stronger. And just like that, Emma's ordinary life had begun to feel extraordinary. She had 2 invitations in her hands, 2 men in her heart, and a future full of questions and hope. It was a thrilling, complicated, and deeply emotional beginning, a chapter she didn't know how it would end, but she couldn't wait to live. The story was unfolding, and the next steps would define not just her feelings, but the lives of all 3 of them forever.